has been definitely battling it out with the conservatives. It's been a rift in the Republican Party. I think we all just need to, acknowledge that it's very much conservatives versus moderates, and John Boehner is definitely more of a moderate. Do you think the conservatives have an actual chance of taking the Speaker of the House, or is it just going to go back to McCarthy? McCarthy? McCarthy.
I think that's the big question. And that's why I said, a lot of conservatives have been ecstatic over John Boehner leaving, and I'm not so sure. It really depends on who replaces him and what kind of job they do. I kind of cut Boehner a lot of slack because as Speaker of the House, he has the role of representing the Republican Party in the House, and that means trying to represent all branches of the party. And at this specific time where we have a civil war within the party, I think that's a very hard job or role to fill. And I'm not sure if his replacement will be as kind to the conservatives as he has been. Not to say that he's done what the conservatives want, but to say that John Boehner hasn't been as aggressive towards the conservatives as many moderates would have wanted.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people have been saying, by the way, he has a 60% disapproval rating in the GOP, the Republican Party.
Wow.
So it's pretty interesting that 40% is trying to call 60% rhinos. And I just find that silly that they were trying to say that the 60% doesn't know what the party is really all about. It's like, well, isn't the party based on the majority? And if the majority of people say that John Boehner is bad, then the GOP says John Boehner is bad. But just some fun facts. He's been in office since 1990.
Yes.
I was one at the time. There's clearly an anti-politician movement in this country. That's why Trump's doing so well. So kind of think that it's John Boehner's fault Donald Trump's doing so well. Maybe if certain politicians weren't doing what they were doing, backroom deals, back and forth banter, we wouldn't have this Donald Trump movement.
I do think that John Boehner was a part of trying to manage the House Republicans working together with the House Democrats. That's arguably part of his role, arguably against his role. I mean, it really depends on what sort of view that you have towards what can be accomplished. I think the Republicans, in this sense, have a bit of a misguided approach, because the approach from what Republicans I've talked to who are extremely conservative have the approach of, this is what I want from government, and I'm going to fight as hard as possible to achieve that. I can't knock that view, but I do think that there are political realities that we have to adhere to. And I think that what ends up happening is the moderates in the Republican Party end up giving concessions as to what the Democrats want, which grows government for the liberals. And the liberals, in return, give concessions as to what the Republicans want, which grows the governments for the Republicans. And I think that's the key to all of this, is reversing the trend of what type of moderation we have. I think the conservatives need to accept cuts to programs they like in exchange for liberals giving cuts to the programs that they like.
Yeah, but we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is growth to programs that the Democrats like, such as Planned Parenthood, Obamacare, and that's what's really ticking people off. But you're also seeing growth to what the Republicans want. So we're not seeing a decrease in spending. We're seeing an increase in spending. And I think that's why 60% of the Republicans and conservatives were fed up with John Boehner's leadership.
Right. No, I can't knock that assessment.
Yeah, I got 4 names for you.
Okay.
And Eric Cantor, Virginia; Paul Ryan, Wisconsin; Kevin McCarthy of California; and Trey Gowdy. What do you think those guys' chances are of being next Speaker of the House?
I think Paul Ryan has a very good chance just because of the notoriety he gained by being a running mate. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's a very fresh name. From the presidential campaign, I think he came off with a positive light. People kind of blame Romney for losing the election. I don't know anybody that blames Paul Ryan for losing the election. And of the campaign, I felt like he was the more likable of the two. So I feel like he has a certain amount of notoriety recently gained, or relatively recently gained, And I think that gives him a good foot forward if he wants the position. Who would you pick?
I would go with either Trey or Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan, he thread both sides real well. He really, before he was even vice president, he was blowing me away with speeches on C-SPAN. So that's definitely someone I was thinking of. Now, here's another interesting fact. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that a member of Congress needs to be Speaker of the House, although it's always been a member of the Speaker of the House. So how happy would you be if Alan West was Speaker of the House?
I'd be very excited. I like Alan West. He's a very awesome guy. He's very eloquent, and yet at the same time, he can be impassioned when he needs to be. I do think that even though technically it doesn't say the Speaker of the House has to be in it, I think it would be a little absurd to assume the idea that anybody would be picked outside the House.
Right.
Just because of the nature of the role, I think whoever's picked is definitely going to be a representative.
Oh, most likely. I just like to dream of these perfect worlds where people like Alan West could be the Speaker of the House, or better yet, I would love to see someone pick him up as Vice President.
It's like saying that anybody could technically be the Pope.
Yeah, well.
They could technically, send that white smoke up and pick anybody in the world. So, I understand you had a reaction of the week towards a liberal, or not a former liberal. You had a reaction of the week over Boehner.
Yes. I was having a discussion about how happy I am that John Boehner is gone because he was a weak leader and he led the Republican Party into such turmoil.
You're going to make him cry.
If you are part, I know I'm going to make you cry. If you are part of the 40% of the Republican Party who still have an approval for John Boehner, listen, the 60% of the party gave him and gave you guys control over the Congress, not the other way around. 60% wins elections. 40% does not. You can fight us and continue to argue against us and call us rhinos, but at the end of the day, we make the rules now. We're going to continue to grow, and you're going to continue to shrink because of a couple of things. One, your team is getting older and older and older, and so aren't your ideas. America wants new ideas from young faces. New conservative values are going to take over the party. You can either get with it or get old and die. John Boehner has been around since 1990. He was the 12th longest-lasting member of Congress at the moment for a current congressman. It's time for him to go. And if you want to sit there and continue to mock us, you're never going to win. You can put up Jeb Bush or Mitt Romney or John McCain, and we're not going to vote for him. And you guys will continue to lose. Or you can realize that we have a lot more in common and work with us instead of Democrats, and we can win not only the House, not only Senate, but we can finally win back the White House, which is something us conservatives have been trying to do for a long time now. That was my tidbit. So for the background information, someone called me a rhino, and I take offense to that because I've been working my entire life. I've only ever voted for one Democrat who was a neighbor and a family friend. This guy who called me a rhino was a Democrat who converted over to the Republican Party and was trying to tell me I knew nothing about our platform, and that just offends me because I've been in the trenches. I was a delegate on behalf of the city of Bangor.
Well, he's as a liberal, probably an establishment Republican. He understands that you follow the party platform. You don't have any individuality. This isn't a wide tent. This is a solemn, specific party that follows the platform, and you don't question it. I don't know. My reaction of the week is directed towards our original topic, which was Pope Francis and his visit to America. Over the past week, liberals have been celebrating what they thought are papal endorsements to their world. Considering how long they've been ignoring what the Vatican says, it's no surprise that they continue to look at the world selectively identifying facts. Over a century before this past week, on May 15th, 1891, Pope Leo XIII answered the question of what is the Catholic stance on economics. In the encyclical Rerum Novarum, he outlined that it was the job of labor and capital to take care of each other without government. While frequently mislabeling capitalism, the Catholic Church has always had a personal message to love thy neighbor. Jesus didn't go around attacking merchants at random. He did so once when they invaded his Father's property. Protecting private property is a rather capitalist message. Likewise, his constant messages on wealth show a pattern of virtue, not condemnation. Liberals would do well to remember there is a separation between charity and the state, because voting away another's money is no gesture of kindness. It's one of control. As Pope Benedictus outlines in his first book, Jesus of Nazareth, there is no separation of faith and history. I further contend that there is no separation of facts of this world and the facts of God. All facts which point to the failures of distribution and the success of trade and peaceful coexistence.
Wow. Well said, sir.
That's 2 for 2.
That is. Now, we have one more piece of business to discuss.
Yes. The pick of the week, the dropout. Who's the dropout?
Now, no one dropped out recently. However, Lindsey Graham has been running campaign commercials here in New Hampshire, and a recent poll has George Baltaki in forward momentum and has passed Bobby Jindal.
Wow.
So I'll ask you, do you change your pick?
I know you're going to choose Pataki, so I don't want to take him from you. I don't want to take him from you. I'm assuming that you're going to choose George Pataki. I'm still going with Lindsey Graham, and here's my logic behind it. I think Lindsey Graham is buying commercials. I don't think he's going to get any traction, and I think he's going to spend up his campaign money and then have to drop out. That's my rationale.
Now, you're going to call me crazy, but I heard a message that another governor is going to drop out.
Another governor? Are you talking about Huckabee?
No, I don't think Huckabee's going to. But it's going to be a former governor, and I'm definitely not going to pick Bobby Jindal because I think he stays in a little bit longer. I'm still picking with George Baltaki as the next dropout, even though he has passed Bobby Jindal.
Okay, so you think that it's his house that's in disarray, so even though he's got a little momentum going for him, it's not going to be enough to justify the fact that his house is in such disarray.
Yeah, and the fact that no one knows who he is, though.
True.
Now, I could be wrong. It could be like Jim Gilmore, who I think is still in the race, and no one knows who that is either. But I just feel like no one knows who George Baltaki is, and no matter what he's been doing, we're just not. No, other than us, no one's talking about him. I mean, I listen to the radio all the time. No one's talking about him.
So your pick is Pataki.
Yep, because no one's talking about him.
My pick is Graham, and we want to know your pick. Say in the comments below, who do you think is going to be the next dropout?
We now have an email, too.
Feel free to send those emails. Questions, comments, concerns, suggestions.
The email is GNP update 2015 at gmail.com. Almost messed that up.
That's GNP update 2015 at gmail.com. All one word.
We're working on Twitter, too, so stay tuned for that.
So we will get our Twitter account up within the next couple weeks, and hopefully I'm going to design an icon so we can use something other than my face photoshopped.
I'm sure your parents love the fact that it's your face.
Thank you very much, Dennis. This is the Grand New Party, and this has been our update.
Grand New Party Update is the intellectual property of Tony Zor and Dennis Rose. Voice of credits provided by Gino Devaney. Theme music Namaste by Jason Shaw, as discovered off freemusicarchive.org on the album Tech Urban Dance.